with my body.
Let me ask you something. If a pregnant woman is killed and the baby dies too, why is the killer charged with a double homicide?
Well, because people have different beliefs.
It's not about belief, it's about truth.
So therefore, if a pregnant woman was walking here on campus and she was murdered, the person who murdered that pregnant woman, should they be guilty of a single homicide or a double homicide? Let her answer the question.
I do believe double if that woman wanted to keep that baby and have that baby.
But hold on, just help me understand this.
Well, the long-awaited South Park episode came out last night, featuring Cartman as Charlie Kirk and Kristi Noam as Kristi Noam, whose face kept falling off and squiggling across the ground. It had a lot of funny moments, but also, apparently, the South Park digs at ICE have actually backfired, and within hours of the release of just some of the, I think the actual teaser, ICE had fulfilled their age gap issues or whatever. There's some funny stuff going on. Again, I will say, I think we can all kind of forget the whole South Park makes fun of both sides. It's still like 95.5. They did do Into the Pandaverse, which was a cultural like moment, and it was good and funny, and it kind of made fun of both sides, but it kind of did lean more into making fun of Disney. But we also can look back at, not a single joke at Obama's expense. They had Obama on, I believe, 3 episodes of South Park. He played a jewel thief, and then he played like a cool guy in all 3 of his jobs. Not a single joke, or I believe even a reference in 4 years about Joe Biden. Nothing about Kamala Harris, which I guess you could forgive that because they were kind of only doing these special events and not big shows and stuff like that. There were certainly some funny moments in last night's show, but it obviously pandered to the same TDS crowd. Again, I think Kristi Noam is memeable. I don't really care for these e-girl mega politicians. Kristi Noam, Nancy Mace, I'm kind of over all of it. So making fun of Kristi Noam, I think, obviously, in bounds. Making fun of everybody is in bounds. They did this bit where, Kristi Noam, her face kept falling off and she needed, this makeup crew. I think that's a super valid criticism where, Kristi Noam is going, full makeup. And then she's like, I'm going to go on this ice raid today. That was always cringe. I called that out as cringe in tweets. And then she's also assassinating puppies throughout the thing, which again was a very weird thing that she wrote about in her book. I, as a pet lover, criticized that because I wasn't sure what she was hoping for there. Was she trying to say, I'm a real country girl and I take out my own pets when they're mean? A lot of people said, well, Jeremy, you're not from Montana or South Dakota. You don't know. That's baloney sausage. There is a humane way to dispatch of a pet. And quite honestly, her reasoning for dispatching of that pet was that it was mean. I don't know about all that. But either way, the gotta nut theme didn't really land. Essentially, Mr. Garrison needs more money. So he joins ICE. And he keeps saying, well, I've got a nut. So basically well, I need money, so that's why I'm working for this evil organization, ICE. Portrayed as Ice Barbie with melting Botox, Kristi Noam takes out puppies in the street from her bathtub, and even while carrying out a raid at family-friendly Dora the Explorer Live, performances where Dora and Diego are handcuffed and led into dark vans, Noam instructs her soldiers to carry out raids in heaven, questioning people of color how they got past the pearly white gates. The episode revolves around South Park Elementary counselor Mr. Mackey, who finds himself detaining some of the Dora audience members after joining ICE following his layoff from the school. At first, he's uneasy about joining, but he eventually caves when he learns the agency's 6-figure salary and $50,000 sign-on bonus. He briefly watches an ICE recruitment ad where a sweaty man, emo teens, keyboard warriors, and psych ward patients are automatically given uniforms and guns. A jingle plays in the background saying, "We won't ask for experience, just show up. We don't care if you read a book or you're grown up. If you're crazy or fat and lazy, we don't care at all. If you need a job, it's a job to have." Mackie was the only one, Mackie has to only show up in the messy field office before he's given a job, handed a weapon, and loaded into a van. None of this is obviously true. There is training there. There are restrictions there. She talks about, "I had to put my puppy down," blah, 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 blah. Again, later as a reward for being a standout officer, Mackie's taken to meet Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and Vice President J.D. Vance tags along, depicted as Trump's evil Dr. Evil's mini-me sidekick. While Trump gives Mackie a tour of the grounds, including his bedroom where Satan is waiting in bed, Vance runs into a bottle of baby oil where, "Would you like me to apply the baby oil to Satan?" he asks. The episode is already on the White House radar. On Tuesday, DHS used the still photo of South Park's ICE agents and encouraged people to apply to the agency online. In a statement to The Hill, a DHS spokesperson said that they wanted to thank Comedy Central for drawing attention to the recruitment efforts. This is being played expert level. JD Vance tweeted out a photo of himself saying, "I finally made it." DHS is using this to free advertising. What this is going to end up doing, I predict, now I could be wrong, Trey and Matt really could have TDS, and there's some question around, the $1.5 billion contract and what the expectations of Paramount were of them, why they canceled last week's episode only to put out basically yet another political episode. South Park quickly hit back on social media saying, "Wait, so are you calling us relevant? Blah, 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 blah." Well, what's funny about some of the backfire, the Los Angeles Times wrote, "TV Superman Dean Cain is recruiting immigration agents, and thanks to DHS, so is South Park." So it's backfiring. South Park saw its ratings soar with the season premiere that lampooned President Trump, but former Lois and Clark star Dean Cain is using it to recruit for ICE while South Park skewers the DHS. Cain played Superman in the 90s. "Here's your opportunity to join ICE," he told the followers in a video. "You can earn lots of great benefits and pay. Since President Trump took office, ICE has arrested hundreds of thousands of criminals, including terrorists and murderers and creeps, MS-13, traffickers, you name it. Very dangerous people who are no longer on the streets." I happen to think that's a good thing. Apparently, South Park thinks that's a bad thing. The thing that the left has kind of portrayed about, and I'm not turning against South Park. There were definitely hilarious moments during the episode last night, which was available on Twitter for free, so you didn't have to pay for Paramount, which was interesting. Basically, both episodes are out on Twitter within moments of them coming out. But, I think the Kristi Noam memes were funny. They didn't waste a ton of time on Trump. Equating Mar-a-Lago to Diddy was weird, but whatever. There were definitely some laughs to be had. But, the left is always saying, well, DHS and everyone who's being deported is just a good old, a grandma who's making tamales, and these are everyone who's come in this country illegally is a criminal by default because you're across the border illegally. But it's also loads of actual hardcore criminals being deported every single day, and I happen to be fine with that. In fact, the majority of this country is fine with that. They voted for it because that's the primary reason Trump won the presidency. Trump won the presidency because people wanted this immigration thing handled, the illegal immigration. I don't mind legal immigration, although I would like to see a period of about 25 to 30 years of net zero immigration just to see what maybe the country looks like for a while. But, they say of the 200,000 people detained by ICE since October, 65% have never committed a crime. Well, that's a lie. 100% of them have committed the crime of illegal immigration. Also, 35% of them are criminals on top of that. So stop trying to say these people are like, the best ever. But here's where some of the backfire is setting in. And I do think it's crazy. Mere hours passed, then voila. Kristi Noam announced during an appearance on Fox News that ICE's hiring age gap had been eliminated, and faster than a speeding rubber bullet fired at an ICE protester, Superman extended the dream of state-sanctioned kidnapping from the young to the old. The thing they had ICE, you could not apply for ICE to work for ICE if you're older than 37, which, you know, if you're a seasoned law enforcement officer and you want to make the move to ICE, you might be in your mid-30s. I don't know why you had to be 37 to work for ICE. That's crazy. I see a lot of young, law enforcement officers that are wildly out of shape. I don't know why that was. But so now basically South Park lampooning ICE has now backfired into ICE lightening their hiring, lowering the requirements of hiring. We go to JD Vance, who I saw tweet this morning. Let's pull that up real quick. JD Vance. Let's see what he did. He's still talking about the Ohio woman, which is great. Here, I finally made it. 300,000 likes. The Trump administration is absolutely, positively playing this perfectly by not pretending to be offended. Now, again, Trump really should not talk about South Park. He should let all these people lampoon, continue to, turn it into a positive. You see South Park, you see still confused as to why you guys went and did normal episodes during the Biden, why you guys went and did normal episodes during the Biden administration and went right back to political stuff once Trump came back into office. Who the F is paying you? 4,000 likes. Jojo from Jurors, who's a loser, says, thank God for you guys. Too extreme, even if it was against the left. South Park is better than this. Bring it back to greatness. Remember when you guys pulled the Muhammad episode? Yeah, but you're edgy, all right. Do people actually watch South Park? I mean, yeah, I don't think it's reasonable to pretend that South Park isn't culturally relevant anymore. But you see, man, you guys have really gone downhill. Still waiting for the Biden episodes. You guys had so much material with the Biden administration, but decided not to use it. This would be funny if you stayed true to the brand and didn't pander to a certain political party. Now it's episode 2, okay? The third episode, which is next week or maybe the week after, could totally go after the left. And then, the video I put out on the Thursday after that will be like, Trump totally torches Disney and streaming and whatever the case is. So South Park. So I think South Park is still culturally relevant, but for the most part, I've thought a lot of their jokes so far this season have been pretty lowbrow. But we'll have to see. Let me know, did you think last night's episode of South Park was funny? Are you even interested in South Park anymore? And what do you think of the Trump administration and how they're playing it? I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do leave a like on it. If you haven't yet, please subscribe or follow down below. We'll talk to you again real soon.